Hello and welcome to Just Jets, episode number 235. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary, going to be hanging out with you for another episode. And today what I want to get into is a hidden gem that probably has to make the roster at this point. Aaron Rodgers getting some love from Tom Brady. And of course, your voicemails. As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear me talk about them until they're gone. But the Talkin' Jets group outing, we are in single-digit tickets remaining to this lovely event. 85 Jet fans are going to be going out and partying it up in the tailgate beforehand with Tailgate Joe, up with all of us in the same section, and then getting on the field after the game. Myself, Ryan, Green Bean Jets, Broncos, week 4. I'm pumped up for it. Get your tickets now. We have limited quantity left, so don't miss it. All right, guys, let's hop into the episode. So, first, we will start with a hidden gem that the New York Jets may have just found, and that is Takk McKinley, the latest New York Jets find. Well, he has had a really strong training camp and preseason performance so far. Where was he? You may remember a 2017 first-round pick. Spent the first few years of his career with the Atlanta Falcons before bouncing around the league and now ending up in Jets training camp. And when he was signed, my thought was, okay, this is someone who is going to compete for a roster spot with names like Eric Watts, Braden McGregor, guys of that nature. And, well, he has competed, and he has competed some more, and he has succeeded in New York Jets camp. I thought he has stood out as one of the Jets' best edge rushers this preseason. And to be fair, that's no Jermaine Johnson, no Hudson Reddick, obviously, as he is still in the holdout. But I got some numbers courtesy of Michael Nania. He covers the Jets for Jet X Factor. And here's some ways in which he stands out, both against the run and as a pass rusher. So, pass rush win rate. He is winning at 25% of his pass rush reps. Of 153 qualified edge rushers, he ranks 6th in the NFL. Granted, small sample size, but this is the preseason, so that's including, really far down the depth guys and some guys who have played at a high level. In run stopping grade, he is 11th from the PFF run stopping grade, which stands out as he has been probably the Jets' best run defending edge. And again, we haven't seen Jermaine Johnson in the preseason. Hudson Reddick hasn't played. Will McDonald's not great at that. Eric Watts has the potential to be better at that, but Takk McKinley's been honestly the best at it so far. And he is fighting for some, not only like to make this roster, I think I might go as far to say he's a roster lock at this point. Takk McKinley. Yeah, I'm saying it. How about that? Takk McKinley, roster lock. Would not have thought that one at this point. There's still one more preseason game left, but when you look at the edge room, they have carried 6 edge guys every single year since Robert Saleh has been here. The names that we know are making the team. Should we include Hudson Reddick? I guess you should. Hudson Reddick, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Michael Clemens. After that, Takk McKinley's got to be there. And Eric Watts, Braden McGregor's looked better. But even if there's no Hudson Reddick, then that opens up another spot. And this gray area of losing Hudson Reddick becomes a little bit more gray, because yes, you still have you have someone that we're just talking up now, Takk McKinley, but let's pump the brakes before we're saying Takk McKinley is your fix to Hudson Reddick. That's like, hey, we're gonna replace this hot rod, the sports car, with like a functioning Toyota Corolla. It'd be like, okay, well, a Toyota Corolla is good. You need a Corolla sometimes. Your grocery getter, do the little things, reliable, but you also need to get home and you want to show off and have the sports car. So you do need both a little bit. And Takk McKinley, again, standing out here, I think has shown enough to make the team. And this is what we're going to start getting into now for the remainder of this week and likely next week's episode. There's one more preseason game, and then they have to get the rosters down to 53 guys. So we will see players begin to get cut. and who from the Jets group is going to make it. And like I said, not just at edge, but in defensive line in general, it's going to be really tough. So here who is listed as the Jets' top linemen. So starters, Jermaine Johnson, Quinnen, Kinlaw, Hassan Reddick. That's 4. We're assuming all 4 are making the team. Next batch, McDonald, Thomas, Fotu, and Michael Clemens. That's 8. Then you get in McKinley, Bruce Hector, Tanzel Smart, Jalen Holmes, Eric Watts, Leonard Taylor, Brandon McGregor. That's a lot of guys. That's 14 guys that I think, and Jalen Twyman, who they just picked up as well. So that's 15. No, not a math. No, 16 guys. Not a math guy. 16 guys fighting for what's likely 10 spots. And there's some players who are probably not going to make this roster that we were rooting for and thought probably deserved it. And Eric Watts and Brandon McGregor and Leonard Taylor, Bruce Hector even, Jalen Holmes has looked okay at times. Like, there's guys here who is unfortunately you're going to have to move on from when you're trying to cut this thing down. And it's a good problem to have when you're, deep at a position. Again, it's a first world problem. I would rather it this way than I don't know, the 2020 Jets who their starting 4 probably just about could have been included guys like Tack McKinley and Tanzel Smart and Bruce Hector and Eric Watts. They've come a long way over the last few years, but it's going to sting to see some of these names go here. Because again, they're a deep group. They're a good group, but there's not going to be room for everybody. And that's when you end up with a Jason Pinnock on the Giants and starting playoff games. And you go, damn it. What could have been? What could have been? And that's the product of having a good defense, right? Guys are going to get poached and it's frustrating and you're going to make some mistakes along the way. But they have some tough decisions to make, man. But McKinley has put himself in a spot where I don't think it's a tough decision anymore for the Jets. How about some Tom Brady praising the New York Jets? Second topic of the day. So it was the Fanatics Fan Fest this past weekend, and Peyton Manning, Tom Brady were there, and both guys listed their top 5 quarterbacks. And Tom Brady's top 5 is going to make some noise for some Jets fans because the top, I would say 4, is relatively consensus. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, that's the top 4. I think most people have those guys in their top 4, even if you shuffle the order a little, you play with the order of that, right? But then Aaron Rodgers was number 5. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, number 5. Ooh, I love the respect that Tom Brady is giving Aaron Rodgers. Unfortunately, if I was to make my top 5 list, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is making that list just for a few reasons. One, he just missed an entire year. He's 40 years old. And the last time that we saw him, he didn't play like a top 5 quarterback. Now, in 2020 and 2021, he absolutely was a top 5 quarterback. 2022, he threw for just under 3,700 yards, 3,695, 26 touchdowns, 12 picks, 91-1 rating. Really, would be a historic Jets quarterback season. But I don't know, it was maybe somewhere between the 8th to 14th best quarterback that year, just overall. And that I would sign up for. But where does Rodgers end up? It seems that Tom Brady is thinking that he's going to end up back closer to, hey, in 2020 when he had 48 touchdowns to 5 picks and completed 70% of his passes. I hope that's the case. Oh my God, do I hope that's the case. If Rodgers is putting up those kinds of numbers, then the Jets are winning. I think a lot of fans talk about the Jets winning 10, 11, 12 games. If Rodgers is playing like he did in 2020 or 2021, then you're looking at 13, 14 wins, which is just insane. And something that I personally am not going to predict, but I think even if it's not top 5 and it's back to closer to maybe fringe top 10, right around the 10th best quarterback in the league, that's probably going to be enough for the Jets to win a lot of games and maybe win this division here. I get it. The Buffalo Bills have won the division a ton over the last few years. They've really owned it since 2020. Or 2019. Did they win the division in 2019? No, they didn't. That was Brady's last year there. They were a wild card team. But anyway, from 2020 to 2023, the Bills have won the division 4 straight years. And Miami the last 2 years have been a playoff team, and they're in the mix, and that's going to remain the same. Miami's, and Buffalo, I think those, and the Jets. So there are 3 teams from the AFC East who will all be jockeying for the division lead and making the playoffs and so on. But I think if Rodgers is playing like a close to top 10 quarterback, the Jets have a really good shot to win this division. I really do. I think they have the best defense. I don't think they have the best quarterback. I think Josh Allen's the better quarterback at this point in his career. But they have the best running back, and they have a really damn good wide receiver. He's not Tyreek Hill, but he's a ascending player. And then from there, it's a really deep team, and coaching's the main question mark. But I think again, I sound like a broken record, but if Aaron Rodgers is playing like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, then the Jets are going to win a lot of football games. It's time for your voicemail. So let's get it started with Max calling in from New Jersey, has some thoughts on the Hassan Reddick trade request and contract situation.
This is Max Toy from home to New Jersey, and let's talk about this new information about the Hassan Reddick situation. So there have been reports that Hassan Reddick is requesting a trade, and I just think it's the most ridiculous report ever. I just think it's ridiculous that after 3 months of signing Hassan Reddick, he's already asking for a trade. I just think it's stupid. I don't know why we ever signed Hassan Reddick. We didn't, Joe Douglas made a big misstep with this trade. And, look, Hassan Reddick is a top edge rusher, but we should not have a D, though. This is like a Jamal Adams situation all over again. He has no leverage. He's not going to get traded. I don't care. He can sit on the bench. We should have – if you want to get a trade that bad, we should trade for Brandon Ayuk. We should trade Hassan Reddick to San Francisco 49ers in exchange for Brandon Ayuk. And this is my reasoning. Because Brandon Ayuk is 26 years old. He's going to be a good receiver. He's one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. Or we could trade him to the Raiders for Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams wants to be back with Aaron Rodgers. So I think Hassan Reddick, if we can't get a deal done, he needs to be out of here. Because we are not going to – because even though he has no leverage, I don't want him rotting on the bench for a year. And then the Jets think, we need to pay this guy. What's your thoughts on this and go, Jets?
You lost me on this one, Max. You did. In the first half, we were it's ridiculous. The trade's ridiculous. Let him rot, and then it turns into we can't let him rot and trade him for Brandon Ayuk or Devontae Adams. So I don't think Brandon Ayuk to the Jets makes any sense. They have to. Brandon Ayuk is looking for a new contract. That's why he's holding out. And if the Jets pay Brandon Ayuk, they aren't going to be able to pay Garrett Wilson and the rest of that core because that doesn't align with the window. Devontae Adams, the reason why a Devontae Adams trade makes more sense than a Brandon Ayuk trade is because he's already on his deal. You can rework that deal to have it for the next 2 years, let's say 24 and 25, and then that disappears. And then in 2026, when Sauce Gardner's the highest paid corner in the league, when Garrett Wilson's making $25-30 million a year, whatever that number ends up being, Jermaine Johnson, 25 million, these guys are going to start taking up big cap hits. And Ayuk is, reportedly looking for $30 million a year too. You can't have 2 receivers making $30 million. It's not going to work that way. So you got to get a guy in here just for the short term, which again, I think that just the Adams conversation makes a little bit more sense, but you're not going to have to trade Hassan Reddick for Devontae Adams. I don't think it's going to be that costly to trade a player for it. I think they're looking for a draft pick. I don't think the Raiders are going to be very good this year. They just announced that their starting quarterback will be Gardner Minshew. I think in that division, it's the Chiefs in a runaway, and then the Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos kind of just all mediocre, somewhere between 5 and 8 wins. Maybe someone gets to 9 because it's a bad division and one of the teams beat up on each other. But I don't think the Raiders are going to be very good. I think they end up trading Devontae Adams at the deadline, either to the Jets or somewhere else. Reddick is not going to get traded. The Jets aren't going to do it, and they need him. They need him. It's a little different than the Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams didn't want to be here Hassan Reddick wants to get paid. It's not that he doesn't want to be here. The Jets could have paid Jamal Adams if he didn't go AWOL after his, second year in the league, third year in the league. Different circumstances. Jamal Adams was still controllable, where Hassan Reddick's not really the same case. You lost me on that one. Let's go. Peter from the beautiful Hudson Valley wants to talk some preseason.
Hey, Matt. It's Peter from up in the stormy Sunday evening Hudson Valley.
What's going on?
Calling in this week after the Jets-Panthers preseason Week 2 game with some observations from my perspective. I guess I've kind of made it my business to pay attention to the offensive line a lot more, considering the 13 different combinations that we went through last season.
Fair.
And one thing I noted from Saturday's game is absence of Jake Hansen. So I wonder if that means he's the number 10 offensive lineman. So we know who our starting five are going to be. We know Wes Schweitzer is going to be one of the backup on the interior because he's the center. And we obviously know the backup tackles are Olu, as well as Max Mitchell and Carter Warren. But Jake Hansen didn't play at all on Saturday. I don't think he's injured. But we saw everybody else play on the offensive line. In fact, Cole Laveo played the entire game on Saturday.
Yeah.
Starting at right guard in the first half and moved to left guard in the second half. It looked like Xavier Newman was the center in the first half. And then Glasser got the start in the third quarter at center. And then, of all things, Brady Latham, was the center in the fourth quarter. You had Max Mitchell spell Carter Warren at left tackle in the third quarter, so Carter Warren got the first half. And then Obina Eze got the fourth quarter. Whereas on the right side, after Olu, it was Austin Beculus for the second half. And then Tyler played right guard while, like I said, Cole Laveo shifted from right guard to left guard on the offensive line. So that's surprising. So I don't know if that means Hansen is a lock as the number 10 offensive lineman already, or is this still going to be a competition after the Giants game? But just something I observed from Saturday's game that you may want to look into yourself as well. Let me know your thoughts on that. And as always, go Jets.
Yeah, so the Jake Hansen one is definitely interesting. I don't think that's the case. Maybe he has. I saw a tweet yesterday from Dennis. I'm going to forgive me, I'm going to butcher the last name. Was Wazak Jr.? He's an Associated Press pro football writer. He's on the Jets beat. And he noted that Jake Hansen was doing sideline drills. Now, he's been offensive line drills, but he's been sidelined for a chunk of camp, so it could be injury related. My guess would be more injury related than him being a lock. The reason why I push back on the lock is because I think Xavier Newman has stood out as a positive, and him standing out as a positive for me is enough. Is enough of a reason for him to stick and be that final interior guy. Because there's some questions about who that final interior guy is going to be. Wes Schweitzer, I think, is an absolute lock. Looking on the rest of the interior, like Jake Hansen's listed as the number 2 left guard. But I would think my assumption would be the offensive linemen that make it: Tyron Smith, Simpson, Tippmann, Vera Tucker, Moses. That's 5. Fashanu 6. Schweitzer 7, Max Mitchell, Carter Warren, and then one more. And I would probably go Xavier Newman, honestly, based on just how they've played so far. So I think Hansen's going to have a tough time making it, but maybe I'm going to say maybe a practice squad place is where he ends up. A practice squad placement might make a little bit more sense for him. So that one I would chalk up to injury related. Let's go to Travis from Ohio, who also wants to chime in on the Jets 53-man roster and the spot that they're in.
Hey, Matt! Travis from Ohio.
What's up, man?
Hey, buddy. Wide receiver has been our Achilles heel forever. I mean, Denzel Mims, Stephen Hill, Elijah Moore. I think we actually got one in Corley. I like him. But, anyway, my question is, who are your favorite, because I have my initial, roster spots.
Okay.
For the 53. Who are your surprises that jumped out to you? Because I got a couple, but they're towards the bottom because we are stacked at almost every position. So anyway, I want to see Leonard Taylor make it. Maybe Watts, I don't know. Smith at wide receiver, maybe, but nothing really jumps out. I'm just kind of impressed that our top half has been performing. So, kind of sad that Kuntz, hearing that out loud. Anyway, kind of sad that Kuntz never developed. It would with me, though. You know what I'm saying, Matt. Anyway, love you, brother. Of course, I didn't have Ireland here for that one. Go Jets.
Incredible phone call. Love it, Travis. Thank you for checking in with us. On the 53, man, I'm still going through. I'll do probably I would say probably next week after the preseason game, the final preseason game. I'll do a 53-man prediction and then react to the Jets 53-man roster after that. But looking at some of the guys you mentioned, like Brandon Smith has made some plays. If the Jets carry 7 receivers, maybe he sneaks his way on. I know Brownlee had a couple drops against the Carolina Panthers, so maybe he's a practice squad player. Irv Charles might not be as much of a lock as we think because of the emergence of Brendan Eccles and Quantez Stiggers on special teams, which opens up a spot for a guy like Brandon Smith or Jason Brownlee, or in some other areas, right? Like Kuntz, I don't think is going to make it, but what about Brady Latham? That's a guy that I know like Green Bean was really high on coming out as a UDFA. I know Jeremy, Jets Chaos, really likes him. Could he sneak his way onto the roster? Defensively, there's a lot more names. I think defense is tougher. For Leonard Taylor, I think he's done enough to make the roster, but is there enough spaces? Because, he's fighting for roster spots, and they like to carry more edges usually. So McKinley, McGregor, and Watts I put in a very similar tier, but I think McGregor stood out more. Where like Zaire Barnes has to make this roster. Do they carry 4 or 5 linebackers? Do they end up carrying what's his name? I'm looking for him right now. Where is he? Codrington. There we go. Who's looked really good on special teams. Had a nice kick return and a punt return in the preseason against the Panthers. And has stood out in training camp as a good returner. Does he make it? That's the tough part to me. And I think we're going to debate this all week. I think after the Giants game, some of our answers are going to change. Like, if you asked Jet fans 2 weeks ago if Tack McKinley was making the roster, probably not. Braden McGregor, same thing, but they have a couple good games in a row, and then you start saying, oh, well, maybe he's going to make the team. It's possible. Let's close out with PG from Long Island, who wants to talk some Hassan Reddick.
Hello, Matt O'Leary. PG from Long Island here. Didn't want to do it. Don't want to do it. Hate doing it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk about Hassan Reddick. I'm going to start with the fact that I know you're a big proponent of the fact that the Jets are a better team with him, and there's no doubt. I agree with that. The quality edge rusher would definitely help the Jets. What brings me here, though, is the fact that I've heard so many people criticizing Joe Douglas for trading for him when he didn't get a contract extension, not under contract, blah, blah, blah. He's under contract. He's making $14 million a year. Nobody would have got to his head to sign that contract. $14 million a year. I'm one of 9 children. I think we add up all of our lifetime earnings, and I don't think we get to $14 million. We're all almost, at least most of us are in our 60s at least. So he needs to show up. Joe Douglas made the trade because he's in a contract year. So I have to give him some incentives, guarantee the contract, blah, blah, blah. Maybe give him a couple extra million. He refused that, but Joe believes he had a gentleman's agreement that he would show up, play out the year, and then earn his next contract. And I believe him. I know there's been a he said thing with the agents, but I believe the Jets. And evidence for that, I think, is the news conference that Reddick did on April 1st, where he said he's going to be here no matter what. He was excited. He understood that the defense around him is going to help him. Quentin Williams, that secondary is all going to help his statistics. And something changed, whether it was the JFM trade or just bad advice from his agents. So he's not here. He's going to be 30 this year. He cannot afford to sit out this year. I think he's making a big mistake. And I truly think that he should, for his own sake, go up soon, have a kick-ass year.
Yep.
And earn whatever, just show up. Anyway, Matt O'Leary, as always, go Jets.
Thank you for checking in with us, PG. I'm with you. The Reddick thing is just getting frustrating, right? Like, no matter what side you fall on, whether there's people who are just fully like, the Jets don't need Haason Reddick, screw him, kick rocks, or Joe Douglas made a massive mistake and they shouldn't have done this or that with Haason Reddick. And then I think you just have pretty much everyone else who's like, I just want this to end. Like, I figure out a way to get this thing done. And I'm at my wit's end with it in a way. Not because I don't want Haason Reddick here. I do. That's it. I want Haason Reddick to be here. I think the Jets need Haason Reddick. I want the Jets to see the Jets win a Super Bowl this year. And if they do win a Super Bowl, I think Haason Reddick would play a big factor in that. So I want to see him out there, man. It's tough. This is the business part of it. And I hate the business part of the NFL because that's when you get into losing guys that you don't want to necessarily have to lose. But that's the reality of it. Sometimes you have to do that. And in this instance, man, like it doesn't make sense for Haason Reddick to sit out for the entire season. It doesn't make sense from the Jets to be that stubborn and let Haason Reddick sit out, because they would benefit greatly from having him around. So figure it out. That's my message to Joe Douglas, Haason Reddick, CAA, who they're both represented by. Just figure the damn thing out. It shouldn't be this hard. Guys, that's going to do it for me in this episode of Just Jets. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your pod or on YouTube. I appreciate all the love and support. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary. I'll catch you next time.